all eyes are on the Texas House. The story today centers around the contract with Texas, this push to ban Democratic chairs and take the House farther to the right, of course. What's your initial reaction to this larger push to push the House to the right and seemingly cut Democrats out of the process?
I mean, it actually sounds more like a contract on Texas, right? Like if there's a hit on Texas, listen, I will tell you this: the people behind that movement, those representatives, in my opinion, they couldn't lead a silent prayer, right? So this is just desperate, hyper partisan tactics meant to further divide Republican caucus. And what I think, more than anything, I think it's really more of a testament, if not a constructive criticism, to the effectiveness of Democrats. So I guess if there's Republicans saying we want to cut Democrats out of leadership, well, then I guess they agree that Democrats are competent, effective, and work hard when it comes to representing their districts in the Texas House. That is not going to change. And I have a spoiler alert for the representatives who have signed their names to this contract. I mean, going back to the days of Sam Houston, there have always been participants from both parties or from multiple parties at the leadership table. That is the process of the Texas House. It's a deliberative body. And if those representatives don't like it, I'm sure they can find a vacancy in Congress. They can fly to Washington and go work up there, because that's where divisiveness and that's where all of this hyper partisan rhetoric, that's where it actually fits, in Washington, not in Austin.
If, let's say, Speaker Phelan loses his runoff, just for the sake of argument, and a speaker is elected that supports this contract, how should Democrats respond if they lose their committee chairs?
I mean, I tell you what, I mean, my job as caucus chair is to stay in touch with the members and making sure that I'm, talking to them about issues that are important to them. I don't know a single member that would support a leader who is campaigning on the fact that they're going to put you on the sidelines, right? So let me say that another way. My job as a caucus chair is to stay in touch with members. I have not come across a single member who's willing to support anybody who's campaigning on the premise that Democrats will have no say, no voice in the Texas House. So what I will say is that when it comes to electing a presiding officer in the Texas House, there is one rule and one rule only, and that is who can get to 76 first. And the people who usually win those races are the ones that aren't going to be checking people's voter identification cards when they're pledging those supporters. They're going to look for somebody to build a leadership team. And right now, as it always has been since the days of Sam Houston, that will include people from both parties.
I'd be interested to hear if Speaker Oliverson has courted any Democratic support, because it seems like the movement now is Republicans need to elect a speaker without any Democrats.
Well, I mean, good luck with that. I can tell you that I don't think it's going to work with electing a speaker, and I think Tom knows firsthand that some of his biggest legislative accomplishments when it comes to ending surprise medical billing only happened because Democrats and Republicans came together. I worked with him very closely on that. So for Tom to say that the work that I contributed to that success is not worthy of consideration, well, I need to reevaluate my friendship with Tom because that wasn't the case when we passed that historic legislation that has become a national model.
Yeah, the other consideration here is that for a lot of the biggest things the legislature does, Republicans don't have the votes to do it alone, right? Any 2/3 majority requirement. Do you see that as potential leverage that Democrats could have if you were to withhold the remaining votes in order to get to 100? How could that give you some more bargaining here?
I think anybody who has observed the inner workings of the legislature recognize that it takes both parties with a pragmatic vision to come together to work on some of the best solutions that we have. We already have a Senate chamber where one party and frankly one person seems to be in control of the entire building. That doesn't seem to work very well. the Texas House has become the deliberative body, the adults in the room. And when you have adults in the room, you're going to have a variety of perspective. And when you have that perspective, you are sometimes doing the best work you can. When you walk into a legislature and you're trying to sideline 64 and what could be a larger number of Democrats on day one, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to get things done, especially on those tough votes that you need 100 to get anything done. And that's even taking a vote to go home for the weekend. Sometimes you need 100 votes. And so I'd be careful what you ask for, because you might find out that this is not, these aren't the rose-colored glasses you're looking through, and all of a sudden things are a lot different.
Yeah, well said. Have you been in touch with Speaker Phelan as he campaigns in his runoff, and are you worried about his prospects against David Covey?
I talked to Speaker Phelan on matters as it relates to policy, what's going on in the House. Not kept up with him in terms of the ongoings of his campaign. But I know that I read and see what everyone else is saying, and sounds like the speaker's working really hard. It's going to be a good race, and we'll have an indication come May as to what the chamber is going to look like in the next session.
Fair enough. And I know it's too early to ask, but again, assuming maybe Phelan doesn't survive this, are there any other candidates that Democrats would support?
What I would say is that I think anybody who thinks that they look themselves in the mirror and they see a Speaker of the House in the reflection, I think the most effective ones are the ones that can count to 75 pretty quick. And history is demonstrated that it's those folks who are counting numbers on both sides of the fence, both sides of the aisle. That's the way it's always worked. And so if you want some cheap advice from the peanut gallery, I think that is a recipe for success.
All right, Representative, just one more question here. I want to ask you about the school voucher issue. I see that "Don't mess with Texas Public School" sign behind you. No way to sugarcoat it. I mean, the governor was pretty successful at picking off some of the Republican opponents he had. Do you worry that the votes may be there by the time we get to the next session in order to pass school vouchers? And how can Democrats fight back next session?
Yeah, I think the only thing I worry about is policy related to border security, because that is exactly what the governor ran on. He didn't run on vouchers. He didn't beat people in office because of their vote on vouchers. He took money from interests that want vouchers and ran a campaign against Republicans claiming that they were weak on border security. So yeah, I think voters in the Republican primary care about border security, but it doesn't seem to me that the issue of vouchers is top of mind. And I think that there's still incredible support for public education. And I think that for the Republicans who won their primaries despite the governor, I think they're going to have some very long memories next January.
Our Representative, thank you so much for your time. This was fascinating.